Good morning, Coolest Coast. It's time for Shelf Talk with Tara and Tina. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Shelf Talk with Tara and Tina. We're your hosts. This is Tara Huck of Freshwater Press. I'm Tina Prigge. We're delighted to welcome special guest CJ Arthur, the owner of WordHaven Bookshop, Bookhouse, Bookhouse. I knew I was going to get it wrong. Sorry about that. WordHaven
Thank you for
Bookhouse.
having me today.
So nice to see you. And I notice, ladies, look at purple. CJ, your background is purple. It's fantastic.
hmm
Okay, so CJ, can you tell us a little bit about WordHaven Bookhouse? Where are you located? Why did you start it? What's it like owning a bookstore?
So I started it a little over 4 years ago, and I moved to Sheboygan from St. Paul, so from the Twin Cities 5 years ago. And I was ready for a reset. Sheboygan's always been sort of a reset place for me, and I needed a big reset. So I'm like, well, I'm going to try it. I thought I was going to retire in Sheboygan, but I decided I might as well go now and see what happens. And when I got here, I realized that there was not an indie bookshop. I actually had not spent a lot of time in the actual town. I'd been in the downtown, but I'd mostly been at like Kohler Andre. And so I was taking a pretty big risk by moving here, not knowing a ton. So I worked somewhere else when I moved here, and it ended up not being a good match. And I just decided to open a bookshop and writing center. I was a high school English teacher. I'm also a writer, and I just felt like it would be nice to have a hub where people could get books, but also gather and write together and grow and connect. And I just decided to try it. And obviously, like, books have been a major part of my life, my entire life, and have always been sort of a safe place for me, and also a place where I learn and grow, and they challenge me. And I just wanted to make sure that people had access to that in this city.
Awesome. You mentioned a safe place, and I feel like the name Word Haven even conjures that, right? Like it almost, it is this word haven for the words you write, for the words you read, for everything. That's beautiful.
I wanted a safe place for words.
I love that. So owning a bookstore, I almost feel like that is the dream of a lot of people, right? This kind of pipe dream, like, if only, and you're actually doing it. What do you enjoy about it? What kind of sets Word Haven apart for you?
Sets apart from other experiences, or
Yeah, other experiences, maybe other bookshops. Why do you think people should come and experience Word Haven?
well, I would say I think people should find any indie bookshop that they can. First of all, so like all indie bookshops in my book are amazing because it's really fun. They're all so different, and you can really feel the vibe of the people who run it and what they believe in and what's important to them in every single indie bookshop that you walk into. We did a thing in Wisconsin this year, which was like an indie, book quest where you could go to, I think it was one of 30 some bookshops and get a stamp, and we had prizes, and we're going to do it again next year. We're going to try to do it every year. And it was so fun to have people come in and say, I went to this bookshop, and this was really cool about this bookshop, and this is what they specialize in. And so every time I'm traveling, I always find the indie bookshops. So I would say go to all the indie bookshops. People, my friends or customers will say, "Oh, I cheated on you. I went to another indie bookshop." That's not cheating. We have an open relationship. So please, all the indie bookshops, because they're amazing, and I have been to so many amazing ones, and I just really respect and value the work that indie bookshop folks are doing. So that's first of all that. Second of all, I think that for me, Word Haven is a place that I know I can go where I feel safe because I can create an environment that makes me feel like I'm surrounded by books. I feel like the characters are my friends, and so I don't feel alone in here. I feel my two dogs come to work with me every day, Rue and Daphne. So we have two shop pups here, and they keep me company because sometimes in the winter we get a little slow. So it's nice. It's nice to have company. In the summer we're pretty busy. We have a lot of folks who come visit Sheboygan from different cities as well. And my hope is that when people walk in here, that they feel like they can be their authentic selves, and that they will be celebrated for that. That they can find books that not only represent their identities, but also other people's identities that they can learn and grow from and build empathy, for themselves and for others. And we can order books too. So, if we don't have what someone needs, I'm not a huge chain, so I can't have like a million books in here. So I'm always happy to order for folks. We have used books downstairs. I have a little free library. And our used books are really cheap. It's $1 for a paperback, $2 for hardcovers. I just really want to try to get books in people's hands. You can get free books at our little free library. This used to be like a pretty significant book desert. They sort of look statistically at the number of books and the number of people, and my hope is that we're making it a less desert-y here with more books. And we also have writing classes and book clubs and night markets and drag story time, and we just really try to have a lot of events where folks can meet each other and again grow and learn and connect. We have community open mic night once a month where folks can come and read poetry or short stories that they wrote or essays. They can sing songs that they wrote. And then we focus on an organization every month that's like doing cool stuff. And we give them like about 10 minutes to come and talk about what they're doing. So then, people can also just learn about our community and like all of there's a lot of cool stuff happening here. And I just want people to, to meet all these people that are doing good stuff. We have vendors come in and do pop-ups and author events and, so I just really want to celebrate like all of the sort of wonderful humans in this world that are doing some really good things.
Oh my God, I love it. All right, so I'm hearing like connection essentially through books. There's so many things I want to unpack that what you just said, CJ, but I have to ask Tara, have you ever been on a bookshop quest? I think we need to do this.
I'm kind of like CJ. I'm a little bit of a bookstore tourist. So, that's always a stop. And every time you walk in, it's like CJ said, you can feel the personality. And the personality of WordHaven BookHouse is welcoming for certain. You have the deep purple wall. All over the walls are art from original artists, in addition to books that are very well organized, better organized than most libraries. You have any category, genre, big wide space to browse, little table to sit and talk, and then the best pens for writers and other novelty items. And every time I go in there, which is really kind of amazing, you don't find this at every bookstore, there's generally another shopper, and they're generally friendly and they're curious and they want to know your own story. And it definitely is very much a community center. I've gotten way too many books, gifts, and art, but probably not enough if I had a bigger house.
Well, I want to shout out Sarah, who just commented. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah's one of the local authors. We actually have her books here as well, and she's taught classes here. So yeah, shout out to Sarah.
And I just want to read her what she wrote out loud. She said, WordHaven is so welcoming. You can feel it when you walk through the door. So, CJ, one of the things you mentioned was, the different characters feeling like friends, but also the empathy that you can learn from a character, right? You had mentioned previously how books can help us kind of learn, heal, and grow, right? When we see the experiences that other characters are having, having access to those characters with various identities, various experiences, helps us to increase our understanding, our perspective, and empathize with different people in the world as we're connecting with all of these friendly folk, right? Mm-hmm. Can we dig into that a little bit? I just love that concept being a benefit of reading books, right? That it increases our understanding, increases our empathy, increases our access and perspective. Tell us from your perspective what this means.
I think for me, even as a kid, I used to read all the time, and I didn't really. I came from a small town in southern Minnesota, and I was the only tomboy. I didn't even know that word at the time, but I just knew I was really different from a lot of other people. I was very, sort of more masculine presenting as someone who's, assigned female at birth, and there wasn't really anyone else like that. And so I got teased a lot. I got bullied a lot. But then I had this group of friends that are still my friends that they could care less about any of that stuff, and they just appreciated me for who I was. And I had some teachers who also did that. Which probably inspired me, to go into teaching in a lot of ways, because they were safe for me, and books were safe for me, and writing was safe for me. So I always, when I was a teacher, I'd tell my students, you're never alone if you have a journal, because if you can sit down and write, you can access yourself better. depending on your sort of spiritual beliefs, you can access your guides if that's something that you believe in, your previous sort of versions of, like if you believe in past lives, like you're just never alone. At the very least, you can access yourself, and you can access yourself with handwriting in particular in a way that you can't when you type. So I wrote all the time. I journaled. I wrote stories. And then I read my favorite thing to do was on Saturday to get dropped off at the library and be there for hours and come back with huge stacks of books. And the next week I'd bring them back. And I just read all the time. I remember we went on a family trip and it was like, put your book down, look outside, and apparently I said, you've seen one mountain, you've seen them all. And I don't remember saying, I was, pretty young when I said that. Because for me, like everything was in the book, and I even remember books like Boxcar Children, where they really relied on each other, and they had some hard stuff, but like they got through it, and like The Outsiders. I remember reading that and just crying at the end. And, so I have these really vivid memories of these books I read of people that maybe weren't as accepted. And I wasn't exactly what my family sort of expected me to be. And that caused some stress. And so I especially have always loved books about chosen family, where you can find these people and, they love you for who you are. And to them, you are family. And that has meant a lot to me. And so I think, everyone has something they're sort of trying to figure out that they might be stuck on. And I like to talk about how we get sparks from a lot of different sources. And I think books and TV and movies, stories, memoirs, like they give you these sparks. And so for us to have, it's always really been important for me to have art. We sell art by local artists, and we have books by, local authors and writers. And I think that the spark thing is pretty cool because I can see one of these pieces of art and I get a spark, and then that might cause me to write a story, or we can give each other sparks and like keep that creativity going and act on them, like do something with them. And when you do something with them, other people see it.
Yeah, right. Like you can learn from characters and their experiences. You can take courage to then go and make your own choices and be self-realized, right?
Yeah. You can feel seen. You can feel less alone. You can feel, and I have had a lot of books where a character, because of something they did or an awareness that they had about themselves, like that caused me to go, oh, and then you have this reflection, and I have acted on a lot of those things that have ended up being like really healthy choices for me. And, and I've got a lot of books about equity, which, I define as, supporting and respecting what people need to thrive. It's different than equality. Equality is you get the same, everyone gets the same thing, but that only benefits certain people. That doesn't benefit everyone, because you might not need the same thing. You might need something totally different to thrive. And so the first shelf when you walk in are books about equity, because that is how we help each other thrive. That is how we can, not just basic needs, but like beyond, to be happy, to, I love the phrase of like, joy as resistance, that, especially folks that have historically marginalized and oppressed identities, we deserve to not just function, we deserve to also have joy.
Yeah, and to thrive.
And so, and I wasn't going to do a book club initially when I opened, and now I have multiple book clubs. And people are like, will you do a book club? Will you do a book club? And I had never been to a book club, which is sort of funny. I mean, I was an English teacher, so I feel like I sort of indirectly led book clubs. But, and then I started this book club 4 years ago, and it is this amazing group of folks. And when you meet with people and you talk about books, they help you see it in a different way. And then they share their stories, and that also provides sparks for things that you're like, I didn't think about it that way. And so you're not only connecting with those people, you're connecting with yourself. You're connecting with other people in your life. So everything that happens there, you get to take with you out into the world. And Sheboygans, we're on a portal. We're on Lake Michigan. So all the goodness just, energetically can sort of flow outside of our town.
It's interesting because, right, when you read a book, there's not only what you experience and what your takeaways are, but right, when you have a discussion then, like as part of a book club, hearing about somebody else's interpretation or how they experience that book is so interesting because it's not always identical, right? Like a book doesn't hit somebody the same way that necessarily hits somebody else. There's different like resolutions.
And I get to do that every day when I'm working here. People come in and they're like, I read this book and this, and I'll ask what they thought about it and they'll share. And so we get to have like these little mini sort of, book club discussions, and it's really fun. And I just get to, I get to learn and grow every day as well.
I love it. So, we each submitted a book cover of what we were currently reading or have just read. And so what we were talking about is books hitting people in different ways. Tara, you said that you're reading Theo of Golden by Alan Levy. And I've heard very mixed experiences about this book, right? I've heard from a number of people that you have to read it. It's absolutely the best thing going, right? It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And then I've heard from some other people like, not my cup of tea. So I will admit, I read 75% of this book. And when I got to 75%, and I say 75% because I was listening to the audiobook, so I know exactly where I was. And I'm like, that's enough. I loved the main character. I loved the spirit of what he was doing, right? Of making people feel seen and realized and appreciative of who they are and what their skills are. But there were just some things that, I don't know, at 75%, I was like, I'm done. Tara, what's your experience? Tell us about this book.
Well, it is interesting. I was drawn to it because of all the hype and the talking. And, I have a small publishing company, so as an independent press, I always like those rise from the humble beginnings stories of books. And this book was originally self-published and is now, of course, a best-selling novel. And I read a lot of best-selling novels to see what is hitting with the masses. Why is that hitting? And, it had some fellowship aspects to it with the main character. I don't want to give away too much, but I think this is in the book description. Coming to a coffee shop, finding some art, and they all depict people in the community, and then he connects them and learns their stories. So I'm thinking, well, that is a beautiful concept. But I'm not in love. It seems the character, while he is likable in a lot of ways, seems a little pretentious, like he's going to, change lives by buying art, which is a noble goal, but I just can't see how it's connecting yet. So I want to hear from the people out here. I'm halfway through. Should I finish it? Am I missing the point somewhere? Like, how am I going to get through to the end? Which just kind of brings up a whole thing. Like, do I need to finish it? Do we have to finish every book we start?
Yeah. Where do you sit on that? I used to feel that way. Like if I started a story, I had to know how it resolved. And now I'm like, time is too precious. If the characters or some part of it doesn't resonate with me, I'm setting it aside and moving on to the next thing that hopefully is even better.
What about
CJ, what do you think?
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think people come in and they're like, oh, I have this to be read list or bookshelf, and I feel like I should get another book because I need to read those. And I'm like, reading should be fun. It should be, and also to pay attention to your gut and your instincts, because you need different books at different times in your life.
Yeah.
And so even if you need to set something aside, that just might not be what you need right now. And maybe you need something else because it's calling to you. It's like, again, I believe in guides, and I think that they reach us a lot through books and through movies and TV and dreams, because it's like a safe way for us to hear them. But just in general, like there are books that you might need right now, and it's okay if you're not digging a book, put it to the side. Like I don't think there's
I have permission now.
There's no one grading you on it. Like you. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, so unless it's an assignment and it's required reading, you don't have to slog through something if it's not, resonating with you. CJ, as a bookshop owner, what are you hearing about this book?
I am going to pass on that question.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I guess I'll just say what you said. There's a lot of mixed reviews. I haven't read it, so I don't feel like I can confidently speak to it. But I have heard there's some concerns about how some folks that are historically oppressed and marginalized, like, are being sort of depicted. Some stereotypes. I've heard there's some racism in there. I have not read it, but I I've heard from some reputable sources that there's some sort of problematic things in there. But I know a lot of people are getting some good stuff from it too. So I don't want to, I used to be a professional team builder and ropes course facilitator. So like, I don't want to deprive anyone of a learning opportunity. And when you read books that do have some problematic depictions, that also can be a learning opportunity and an opportunity for growth. Yeah. So, even books that have problems can teach us stuff.
Viewers, are you reading Theo of Golden? Have you read Theo of Golden? We'd love to know in the comments how it resonated with you. What did you think? What are your thoughts? Do you recommend it? CJ, let's talk about the book that you're reading, Social Animals by Camille Perry.
Yeah, so we just finished this. This was our book of the month book for July for our Treehouse Book Club, which is what I call the book club that I lead. I call it that because I don't know if you can see it, it's sort of hard on there. I got this tattoo probably about 10 months before I opened WordHaven, and when I was thinking of a logo, I was like, ooh, I love that treehouse vibe. Like I had a treehouse as a kid, and it really was a safe space for me. So I call it Treehouse Book Club because it's a safe place where you can, talk about books and your connections and your feelings. And so we read Social Animals, which you just put on the screen, by Camille Perry, and she's been great. She's actually been messaging with me on Instagram, and like, because I did like a shout out on her on Instagram, and she responded, and then we messaged a little bit, and she gave me a question to ask the group for the book club, and so that's been really fun. And she's a queer author, which I didn't actually know until the day of the book club. I was like, oh, bonus, that's cool. Representing different identities. And it was really a cool book. It was cool to talk about it with folks too, because everyone got a little bit different stuff from it. But it's really focused around these three women that didn't know each other, but they meet each other at a dog park, and they have their dogs, and they're all there for different reasons. But the relationship between the human and the dog, and the people and the dogs, and I think, and two of the women, like, they weren't really dog people initially, and just how having a pet really changed them. And so we were able to really talk about that in our book club, about like, who are some animals in your life that have really impacted you and sort of changed your life? Because I love animals. I used to be involved in animal rescue. I've got a whole crew of animals at home, and they changed my life. And I just think, a book that really sort of focuses on that it was delightful, really.
Oh, it sounds good. Is one aspect of it that the animals helped people connect too? So for example, if they went to the dog park, because they each had dogs, they were able to then talk to each other?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that, the social animals is not just about that dogs are social animals, and they need that socialization. As humans, we need socialization too, obviously. And so I think sort of the double meaning of that. But yeah, I gave them a route to connect, because you can start talking about your dogs first, and then you can, start learning more about each other. And, the dogs are working through their relationships. The humans are working through their relationships. And there's a lot happened. I don't want to give any spoilers, but it was just a really fun book to talk about too, to see sort of people's different reactions to, the relationships.
Tara, tell us about the big dog in your life.
Well, I do have a big dog, and we do go to the dog park and meet other dogs, and I am a little socially anxious, so it is very much a nice icebreaker. And actually, my shirt today is new. It's got my dog on it. It's not my actual dog. And then relating to the tattoo of CJ's, it has a tattoo that says, I love mom, which my real children, my human children will probably never tattoo, but my dog can on my t-shirt.
That's so sweet. What's your dog's name?
Walter. He's a almost 4-year-old yellow lab.
Oh,
Tara,
sweetheart.
Have you had a chance to read Social Animals?
No, but I just wrote it down because it sounds right up my alley. It might give me some conversation starters for the next time I'm at the dog park.
Nice. Do you have something that's next for your book club, CJ?
Yes, we are reading Traveler, and let me get the author because I don't want to miss that. Here, I can give you a visual here. So it's called The Traveler by Joseph Eckert. And, we meet the last Thursday of every month at 6:00. And this one is, so I really like speculative fiction, sort of the subgenre of sci-fi, where, there's like one thing that's sort of different and it impacts society. And in this one, the main character, he's driving on the highway, and all of a sudden, like, he wakes up and he is like tumbling on the highway as cars go, because he starts to travel. And for him, it's like this, but for like the timeline where he's from, it's like, in that case, I think it was like, I don't know, a couple minutes, but then it doubles every time. So, then it becomes years, then it becomes, and he has a son. So when he sees his son has now aged 11 years or whatever. And his son is like trying to figure out, like, why is this happening? So he goes into, that field of study at Berkeley. So it's really, I'm not done with it yet. I like to read at the same time that everyone else does, so that I'm not coming in as this expert of this book. I like to, and it's fresh for me too. And so it's really fun to experience it with folks. So I've really been enjoying it. And so if folks are interested, it's called The Traveler, again, by Joseph Eckert. And anyone's welcome at our book club. And there's no expectation you have to come every time. It's like at 6:00, the last Thursday of the month at WordHaven. And if you want to join us, join us. If you don't, cool. But we've had some pretty amazing sort of conversations and connections.
That's CJ, awesome. How do you pick your books for the book club?
Actually, what I do is I go by vibes. So I read the first page, and if it pulls me in and I feel like it's what we're supposed to be doing, then that's the one I do.
Nice.
And we've got 2 other book clubs here too. We have Mortal Matters, which is led by Rebecca, and that one really focuses on death and dying in both fiction and nonfiction books, and that's the last Saturday of the month at 11:00. And we have a band book club that meets the last Saturday of the month at, or usually around 2:00, and that's led by different community members. So Ryan Berg is leading the August one, and they're doing A Clockwork Orange. So those are books that have been challenged or banned anywhere in the U.S. And the community member who's leading the club for that month, they get to pick what book that we're doing.
Oh, nice. Interesting. I'm glad that you clarified that, because I heard band, like thinking instruments,
Oh, no. No, banned books, because, a lot of books are being banned right now. And I want to make sure that, we're talking about why.
Yeah, right. And keeping them alive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm wondering if you guys have read this book. I just finished The Sideways Life of Denny Voss by Holly Kennedy. I really enjoyed it.
I never read that yet.
Okay.
What'd you like about it?
So first of all, I liked the reading. I liked the way the story kept pulling you forward. I listened to the audiobook, and I think I listened to it almost straight through. Like, I took a break for supper, but like I just kept going. Like, this wasn't over days. And so that's always a good sign for me, right? When I just can't stop reading a book. I feel like it really ties in with some of the topics we're talking about today, right? The main character had some birth complications, and because of that, he's got some cognitive limitations. And the whole book is from his perspective and interfacing with the world and some of the challenges that he bumps up against, and people like rushing ahead, assuming they know what he's going to say, but not letting him really work through, or not helping to connect the dots as he sees them. It was, when we talk about like that empathy and characters' experiences, I feel like it really opened up my perspective to what somebody in that situation might be experiencing. But it was just a delightful read, and it had a very unexpected resolution. I'm giving it a 2 thumbs up.
Nice.
No, that sounds good. I added it to my list.
Yeah, do you have a difference? Is it different for you if you listen to a book or read a book?
For me, I'm usually listening to a couple different books and reading a couple of different books at the same time. So I don't know. I think I've been having some problems with my eyes the last year. Like, I had to get cataract surgery, and there's been some side effects, and so I can't read as well physically. I'm meeting with a surgeon and getting more eye surgeries and doing all this stuff, so hopefully that gets better. So reading has been physically a little more challenging for me. So listening has been really helpful for that. But I love reading too, because then I can create it in my head, and so I still try to do that as much as sort of my eyes will allow. But I would say, like, over the pandemic, I really got into listening to books. I could not like sit and read during the pandemic. I had the hardest time like slowing my brain down enough. I was so stressed. And so reading or listening was like, and I was living by myself. So like it kept me company to be able, and for some reason I like really got into like zombie stuff. I felt like I could relate with like the post-apocalyptic sort of zombie vibe, I think. And so I got super into that. But then when I came back to reading, it was actually a little bit after I moved here. I went to the library. The Sheboygan Library is amazing. And this is before I had my bookshop. And I got a book by Elizabeth Berg. It's called it's Arthur Trulove. It's I know I should know this. The story of Arthur Trulove, which that was the first book I could really sit and read again. Elizabeth Berg is one of my favorite authors. So like, and it's a series. And so like that book got me back into reading. And so I'm like really grateful to that book. And actually my last name, I picked it because of, one of the reasons I picked it was because of that character. So I legally changed my name 2 years ago. I came out as trans non-binary. And so the name I was given before like didn't really match my identity anymore. And so I knew I was going to change my first name, and I decided to change my last name too. And and then my middle name, so it's CJ. It's Charlie Jonas Arthur. Charlie is from like Charlie Brown. I was compared a lot to Charlie Brown as a kid, not always in a positive way, but I'm taking it as a positive way because I'm like a highly sensitive person. Jonas is from The Giver, because that's one of my all-time favorite books. And
Love The Giver.
From that, so like my names are actually all from books.
So that's like a perfect, demonstration of how characters in books can influence our lives, right? It's literally shaped your name.
Yep.
Yeah. Tara, how about you? Do you listen to audiobooks?
I do, and like CJ, I have multiple books going at the same time, different genres. The only books I read on print religiously are, well, coincidentally, books of devotions I study every day, and also poetry. I find I just like it slows you down when you're reading. Audiobooks, sometimes I even like put it to 1.2 or 1.5 if we're up to the climax. But a physical book, you slow down. And then in my line of work, I read a lot of manuscripts on the screen. So it's just nice to give my eyes that rest, try to preserve my vision. I don't know if it's possible, but so yeah, I'll mix like CJ.
Yeah, and I think this day.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would just wonder if I could ask both of you a question of like, what is a book or a story that you've listened to or read recently that did cause like a spark for you that you acted on?
Oh boy.
That is a very good question.
I think what sparks me the most, other than developing empathy, is I've never lived outside of Manitowoc, Wisconsin, or Manitowoc County other than college. And it gives me the opportunity to explore and be brave, like you said. And then the other books that I really think spark me are literal writing handbooks and poetry and devotions, like, because I do Christian writing. So those things really kind of spark and propel me in those directions.
So I just recently read The Last Overland. It's a true story about this Land Rover that had been recovered. It was like 60 some years old. They recovered it, they restored it. It had originally driven from London to Singapore, right? It had done this amazing overland trip in like the early 1950s. So the grandson of one of the original drivers was part of the team that was now going to drive it from Singapore back to London over like 4 or 6 months. And I love travel adventures. I don't know if you know my story, CJ, but I'm wheelchair bound, right? But I've always loved adventuring. And so reading a story like that really allows me to kind of travel, but without leaving my wheelchair. And after reading the book, I told my husband about it. It really resonated with him, that kind of travel adventure. So they actually made like a documentary about it. So we consumed that and just really like sparked all of this like travel excitement and dreaming like, maybe one day we'll be out on the road again.
Mm-hmm. I see that in your future.
Yeah. Thank you.
Nice.
Oh, Tara, CJ, this has been so enjoyable. What an awesome way to kick off the weekend with a Friday morning book discussion. CJ, I hope you'll come back and join us again because I feel like we could just keep talking and keep talking.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
This is fun. All right. Have a good weekend, guys.
All right. Thank you so much, viewers, for watching this episode of Shelf Talk with Tara and Tina. And leave in the chat what you're reading, what you're planning to read, what you've just read. We'd love to know and connect.